Okay. Well, I can't. Start me off.
Okay. I leave everything.
Well, the first thing, this is too funny, the first thing I remember was waiting for the bus. And I'm running, I gesture too much.
Okay. No, louder.
I'm running up the cellar looking for the bus. Oh, never mind. I'm and running for, just looking and waiting. It might have been my first day of school. And okay, so I go to school, and of course, when I get to school, I puke. And they teachers, and they were all kind of hovering over me. And what did you have for breakfast? Soup, I said. Oh my. And they whispered a little bit, I'm sure. It's like, soup? Okay. But what I had was that vanilla pudding for the McNess man, and Mama called it soup. And the reason I puked because I was so shy and so frightened, but I was also motion sickness. And they were just like, why is she, and why? I remember only the one time, but I encountered this teacher I had because she was teaching Kirk in Ontario, and she told me about me puking every morning, and I didn't know that. I thought maybe I puked once. And of course I was so frightened and shy, like a scared rabbit. You take motion sickness and fright, you puke, obviously. I mean, I was, well, anyway, so I'm in school. That's all I remember. I don't remember anything except the puking. I don't know what I learned. If I learned my ABCs, I have no idea. And I went home, and I'm not sure if I puked every morning, but I puked a lot. I don't remember about that, but what else do I remember about?
What was it like having 4 sisters?
4 sisters. Okay, I'll tell you. There was the 3 little girls who I hardly knew, but I thought they were awfully cute, but I really didn't know them. I thought they were cute, and I remember I liked them. Oh, I'll tell you, I only remember of being angry. I'm sure I was angry at them more than once, but the one I remember is I'm washing dishes. No, they're washing dishes here in this house, in the main house, and they didn't wash them clean enough. And I was kind of a bitch about, I want that clean. So I complained to Mama, and she made me wash them by myself because I was Mrs. Clean. And I thought, okay, don't complain anymore, dummy. Duh. Oh, I also remember one time I was washing dishes, and Mrs. Gold was sitting there like this. She said, you didn't wash that silverware individually. I wanted to throw a knife, but I didn't because Mama would have beat me. I was no longer mad at the little sisters. I was mad at Mrs. Gold. And by the way, Mr. Gold never chased me. I must have been too ugly. But I'm not sure. Or I was too wise. I have no idea. But anyway, enough from Mr. and Mrs. Gold. Oh, this is not in my stories, but I remember that we had this, Mama and Papa had this this Swede friend, Oscar Johnson, who later on they kind of took in after we all left. Then they ended up, he was a bachelor, by the way, and they ended up taking him in if he would not drink. Oh, he tried. Well, anyway, before that, he lived, where did he live? He lived here about, in the pasture where, over here, where Steve and Julie had their trailer in that area. And he Oh, let's see. Mama washed clothes for him, and he would get drunk a lot. But I remember this one thing. I just was talking to Mary about it, and I don't know if she remembered. Mary dressed him up. I remember this. Maybe she dressed him more than once. She put a hairnet on him, and she put lipstick and eyebrows on him. And he looked in the mirror, and he said, "I look like Jesus Christ." I'm this little kid. I'm like, oh, this is too funny. But I'm thinking, you can't make fun of Jesus. I remember that. Well, anyway, I didn't write that in the story because I had forgotten about it. Okay. Let's see. And Mary said, I think maybe she did that. I'm not sure. Maybe she did that. I'm sure she dressed him up more than once. But I don't think I was helping. I was maybe just watching. But anyway, on to enough of him. What else do you want to hear about?
About your other family.
I'll tell you, I thought this was one of the coolest things, but I wrote about this one. But I thought this was pretty funny. But I thought we lived still in the chicken house, and we were all quarantined for scarlet fever. But I must have been probably, I'm not sure, maybe 6, 7 years old. And I remember this vividly. The county health nurse comes in with her starched white clothes and her cube white shoes, and she's wearing this Red Cross outfit, right? I'll never forget her. And I remember her tacking up that quarantine sign like she was cutting a fat hog in the ass. She's like, and Mama was like furious because she felt like she was a bad woman because she wasn't taking care of her children. And I remember, I can still see her in my mind with it was a navy blue cape, that was it. And she gets in her truck like, she finally got to do this work, quarantine. So anyway, but that might have been in the Cervatka house, but I thought it was I swear it was nailed on the chicken house door. And I remember it just kind of looked like crossbones to me, poison. And Mama was just, she hated the woman there after she was a county health nurse, and she was doing her duty. But the way Mary explained it, and we're quarantined, I don't know how long, but some of the neighbor kids snuck over and played with them anyway, which is funnier than crap, because, could have got that. Anyway, what else do I remember? The what? Cooking. The what? Cooking? About Mary's cooking?
Your cooking, Mary?
My cooking? Oh! I didn't write about this. Mary was, a good cook, and she made candy. We didn't get to make candy very much, but I remember something very interesting. I would go to the neighbor girl, Hazel, which was next door. They could spend on sugar. See, I think it was because sugar was rationed during the war. And I remember we made fudge, and I loved Hazel's parents. They were very, very nice. And they were young, and I know they didn't have any money, but they would spend their money, on cooking and whatever. And so, you should sit closer so you can punch me. So I remember the first time I made divinity. I'll never forget this. It's so funny. Okay, now sugar is rationed, and I am making divinity. And I did not know you were supposed to beat those egg whites. So I pour that hot syrup in there, and I had boiled white little things. And do you know that I ate because I didn't want to waste that sugar? I can remember eating it. It tasted terrible, but I ate it. But I loved sugar, so I ate it with the egg whites, and can you imagine? Oh, my God, it was horrible. Well, the next time I beat the egg whites, come on, and I did make divinity. I can't believe it. I must have been, I don't even know how old I was, because Mary always cooked. I never had to cook. What I did that I loved, I rode that horse, that penny. I felt like I was free as the wind. And I remember Fred McCachran telling me something very interesting. But see, I wrote him until I was, I'm not sure, till I was maybe 16, 17. And Fred McCachran told me one day, he said, you know, Adley, he said, when they came out and hunted, he said, and you rode by on the horse, he said, everybody dropped their gun. I didn't know that. He said, and what did he tell? He told one of my grandsons, he said, nobody would have kicked her out of bed. Oh, thank you, Fred. Thank you, Fred. He told the grand, but I didn't know they looked at me while I was writing. I had no idea. You want to televise this one? I think he's dead. But my husband, speaking of pheasant hunters, my husband told me something very interesting. After I was gone, the McCarthys always came, these Lloyd and Bernice McCarthy. And now the three little girls are grown up, and they're quite pretty. Red Wilson and I went home. We went home, and he said, Adelaide, he's a dirty old man. I said, what are you talking about? He said he followed those girls' asses all with his eyes all over while they walked around in the kitchen. I said, you are kidding. I thought he was a nice old man. He did divorce his wife and marry a younger woman. So I remember this Lloyd and Bernice. It was interesting. So we didn't know that many people. So, God, talk about dumb. I decided to go up. Okay, we're going to go to Portland, and we're going to go stay with these McCarthys. And Red and I are sleeping there, and guess who comes to our room with a breakfast tray and orange juice? Lloyd McCarthy. And I'm thinking, wow, this is interesting. Well, he just wanted to view the body, I think.
Tell us about your brothers.
The brothers, well, I'll tell you, when I went to high school, I felt like I was the luckiest woman in the world. This is high school, but you want to hear before that? Well, you know, I can tell you a few things. Okay, I remember the chicken fights. And we had the chicken fights right out here, and there was a ditch nearby. And I could clean house on Paul. He was a wimp, you know the chicken fight is. Well, I got the Rimrock Savage a couple of times, like that, because I was strong like a damn horse. Well, he told me today that once he won, I didn't want to fight him anymore. I was a poor loser. So I don't know. I don't remember that. I thought I always beat him up, but I don't think so. But I loved chicken fighting. I don't know why. And I loved it. Now, Pete must have made the stilts. I loved walking on those, the real stilts, not the cans. I didn't care about that, but the stilt. I loved doing that. But you don't want to hear about, let me see now. Oh, what else? Oh, I don't know. They're brothers. Okay, I don't remember too much about, well, I do too. Maybe I don't want to remember about Peter and John in grade school. I didn't really like them when I was in grade school. Not that much. Maybe in the 8th grade I liked them. But when I went to high school, you can't imagine. It was wonderful being the sister of Peter and John. They were the studs. And man, oh man, and they treated me like a queen. And I remember some people say, Adley, our brothers treat us like crap. God, they were nice to me. And I remember being so proud of being a Schaffeld and how kind they were. And I always had a crush on the guys older than me because I was taller. I wasn't fat, but I always had a crush on the older guys. But it was wonderful. Then when I got to be a senior, Joe and Paul came along. But according to Joe, I wouldn't talk to him. But because I have no idea, it wasn't because I was snubbing him. I was an extremely shy person. And anyway, the best I ever did was getting over it, I'll tell you. But Joe and Paul were also good to me, and I was very happy to, that they were so kind. Now remember the date. Oh, this is interesting. Paul had one of the handsomest friends you ever seen. And he asked me to go to this dance. But the trick was this. Now, I'm not stupid. He didn't have the choice of all the girls. They had to pick up on the home ec girls. The FFA had to invite the home ec girls, I think. Something like that.
Yeah.
Well, he chose me. And he was 3 years younger. He took me to the dance, and the girls were so jealous. But I wasn't even flattered, but because by the time I was already dating Red, but boy, were the girls. And the man was quite interesting. He spent the whole night dancing with me instead of other girls. Interesting, huh? But it didn't, excite me. But anyway, what else? Nothing. Well, Aggie, I thought was the cutest little girl. And for some reason, I remember I would go to sleep at night and I'm thinking, that is the cutest little girl I ever seen. I thought she looked like a doll. Isn't that ridiculous? Excuse me, I didn't say that. That's ridiculous. She wasn't a doll. She was real. And the story that cracked me up, when Papa came in one day and he is laughing, and he was out at the barn showing the ag teacher the cows and cow. And little Aggie comes chasing him, and she had her arm linked in Papa's, and she goes with Papa out up to the barn. And I remember Craig Jessup, because Papa, how I know this story, Papa came in and related the story. Craig Jessup said, the ag teacher said, "Henry, is that one of your children?" And he said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, she's too nice looking." This is what Papa came in and told Mama, because he got a kick out of this. Well, anyway, but I just, like I said, I just remember she was awfully cute. And I remember I adored her. I don't know why. I was kind of stupid. Did you know, oh, you'll love this one. When I was ironing the clothes out here in this little, in the Servatka house, okay, and then this Aggie was a baby, and Mama had Fletcher's Castoria, which I'm not sure what it was for, and then she had the Pablum cereal, and she had cough syrup and whatever for Aggie, because Aggie was a sickly little girl. Well, while I was ironing, I would sneak the pablum all the time and eat it. Oh, it was good, but I didn't take enough so that Mama would miss it. Well, one day I asked Mama, I read on the box and it said 7 grams or 3 grams in the box, 3 grams of whatever, and I said, "Mama, what is this?" And she said, "Well, there's 7 grandmas inside." Did you hear this, Collette?
Mm-hmm.
And no wonder we didn't learn anything, because got these stupid answers. Well, getting back at the cough syrup, I don't know if it was for Aggie, it might have been for anybody. Okay, while I'm ironing the clothes, guess what the best thing that I wanted? I'd take a swig of that cough syrup, because I love that codeine. Isn't that the the worst, crazy? I think I was the young addiction.
Too.
What?
I did. I loved the taste of that cough syrup too.
You understand. Mm-hmm. But I love that better than the pablum. Oh, it was good. And evidently it was a codeine. Mm-hmm. But I never told anybody. But also while I was ironing those clothes, see, I would iron for 10 hours at a time or whatever, and I never felt, like I was mistreated. I loved doing it. They smell good and they were clean. And I like doing that better than cooking or feeding the calves or whatever you do. And it was a nice clean job. But while I was there, these are the things I did. I remember while I'm ironing, I'm sneaking pablum and I'm sneaking codeine. Well, also because I crave sugar so badly, there wasn't much sugar in the house. Okay, the sugar was in the roses, the roses that were on Mama's wedding cake. Obviously, you got it? Mm-hmm. And they were on the buffet, in Mama's bedroom, and they were in this little footed compote, beautiful thing from Germany. Mary has it now. It's a beautiful thing. And this candy was in there. Well, again, I'm sneaking only enough so they don't notice. And I would nibble. I'd get that rose, and I'd come home from school and nibble on this candy, and then I'd put it back. And I bet you the mice nibble on that too. I'm assuming so. But anyway, that was my sugar fix. What else happened? I don't know. Oh, speaking, well, the sugar addict or whatever I was, the other thing that I remember, my mother was, frankly, a horrible cook, but it wasn't all Mama's fault. It wasn't Mama's fault. Papa wouldn't give her any money to buy groceries. So she didn't put any sugar in the jam, and it tasted terrible, and I hated it. And then Papa would let her throw away any grease, so the grease was in the soup. Well, I ate the soup, and of course I later puked. I hated that greasy soup. So, but like I said, again, it's not Mama's fault. That's what I want people to understand. Mama did make some good food. She made wonderful pheasant. It was kind of what you call, not cacciatore, but what she would do, she'd fry the pheasant, roll it in flour, fry the pheasant, and then she would put a lid on the top and let it simmer, and then she'd add cream to it and put it in the oven. So is that called fricasseed chicken? I believe. I think that's really the name. It was out of this world. It was wonderful. There was no grease. And what else? She made good potato salad, and I remember she made this good spice cake. But because Mama didn't read recipes, she still made, and obviously in the spice cake, I'm sure there was butter, raisins, allspice, ginger, little cocoa. There were no nuts. We didn't have nuts here. And so it made the cake very heavy, and it really was good. And I remember Papa asked me, when he was very old, he said, Adelaide, could you make that cake that Mama made? It was so wonderful. Well, anyway, getting back at this cooking. Okay, so Mary, she was Mama's right-hand man, and she cooked. Okay. She was extremely creative. She made, what did she make? I remember Papa bought a pressure cooker, I think, when Mama was in Germany, and I won't ever forget that meal. I'm sure there was more than one meal. Maybe it was, okay, Mary had, there was in this canner, there would be to put your individual, I think there were sections, okay, so there was potatoes, carrots, or whatever. And why I remember that meal so bad, there was no grease. I thought I died and went to heaven because it was so good. And I'm sure there was meat in there too. Boy, I remember that meal. But like I said, Mary was an excellent cook. I mean, and she loved doing it, and I hated it. In fact, I never cooked until I got married. And when Mary was gone, I remember now I have to cook because maybe Mama is gone. Mama wasn't gone very much. And I remember frying the potatoes, scared to death that I would burn them because I would hear Papa yelling at Mama, "You burnt the potatoes," and it was hard to regulate the stove. And I remember when I found out that I had to cook, Mama would be gone, I was now again very sick at my stomach. But I didn't have to do it very much. I also was afraid of the boogeyman. So if Mama and Papa were gone and I'm in charge, now the older ones are gone, I am scared to death of somebody coming in murdering us. Crazy. I don't know about you, the little girls, whether they were afraid of that, I have no idea. Maybe because of the band of gypsies. Maybe because the band of gypsies that I would see coming in, and they scared me half to death, and what they wanted was food, And I know that if Mom and Pop and Mama never had enough to share, but they knew that if they didn't give them that, they'd get their revenge somewhat. And I remember them giving them things out of the smokehouse. And I can still see that I think they were in a wagon, I'm not sure, and I don't really know how many times they came. But that's scary, because they'd rape and plunder. They didn't do it here, because Mom and Papa were smart. They were smart to give them that. And then I remember them driving off, and I think they had, like bandanas, like the hippies wear, I think. But maybe I dreamed that up, who knows. Oh, hell, I don't know. Let's quit this thing.
Do you have any other favorite times that you want to?
Oh, the favorite times.
Your favorite time, and then end with that.
Well, I'll think about it when
games. Your games.
Oh, okay. Yes. Oh, yes. I remember something vividly. I remember that I loved the snow. And what I liked to play, there wasn't snow a lot at Thanksgiving, I liked to play fox and geese. And I remember this one Thanksgiving that the night before Thanksgiving, and I think Mama never had a turkey, we had chicken, I believe, several chickens. Oh, just a minute. One night before, this was one event I'll never forget. Night before Thanksgiving, a goose flew over and hit the electric line and died in the barnyard. And we had the most, I thought it was wonderful, a goose. And as a young, I remember it, I thought it was the finest Thanksgiving in the world. And I don't know if that was the year that it snowed. We played fox and geese, unless I'm relating this fox, but I know we played fox and geese, but I don't know, because it didn't snow at Thanksgiving a lot, but I remember that fine goose, and I'm thinking later, well, geese are greasy, so why did I like that stupid goose so well? But I was thinking, I know God sent that goose. I remember thinking that. How silly, But, I didn't, like I said, that I probably didn't even think about a turkey. I probably never had, well, yes, because I remember we had turkey with maybe the Pappies, maybe, so I didn't have turkey before. That was Mom and Papa's close friends that lived on the condo place. But, I don't know, what else do I remember is memorable? Oh, there's so terrible much that, heavenly days.
What was your favorite thing in?
Well, I remember, I'll tell you what, and everybody has a story about that granary. All right. I remember I was either a junior or senior, and Papa said, Adelaide, this is your bedroom. Okay. And so there was 2 iron beds in there, and Aggie and Franny slept in one, and Gertie and I slept in the other. And since I was the oldest, and I think I was cutting potatoes at the time, I furnished that with pink Priscilla curtains, white chenille bedspreads on each bed, and a chartreuse rug in the middle. Chartreuse was a thing at the time, and I think for some reason the walls were chartreuse. And at that time, now I'm dating Red, and I remember now when I get it, because it was so cold in there, but it was a lot warmer than anything we'd ever had. And I remember thinking it was a palace. Dead serious. It was like a palace to me. And the closet was, how the same size it is, pretty little. But the interesting thing, I'd wake up in the morning and I'd have to unwrap my body. I'm wrapped so tight around Gertrude to keep warm. And that little girl never complained. I can't believe it. Crazy. God, I was probably smothering her to death, but she kept me warm. And like I said, Joe and Paul are different ones. Maybe, they remember that hot, but I think I am the first one that Papa said, Adelaide, you can have this for your bedroom. But, you know, there's a discrepancy in this. But I'm positive of that. See, because Joe and Paul are younger. So now I'm gone. I'm in Boise, and maybe Joe and Paul slept in there. I'm not sure. Maybe you girls did. Did you girls keep sleeping in there? Yeah. When did Joe and Paul sleep in there? Is what I can't.
When they moved it. When they moved it over on the cement pad. The boys slept in it, and they left the windows open, and it snowed in there.
I heard that story.
And
but honey, where were you girls? Are you
girls
now in the house?
No, we didn't sleep in it. It was too far away. We were too scared.
Really?
It was moved over.
So when I left, Joe and Paul got to be in there.
And it was moved over where it is now, next to the house.
Really?
Because we were too afraid.
Joe and Paul got it after I did. Mm-hmm. That's it. And they left those windows open. That's when all the snow went in there then. Oh, because see, when Joe was telling the story, I didn't understand that. Mm-hmm. I couldn't figure out how they had all that snow. They left the window. Oh, that's hilarious. But you know, it was the first time I was ever warm. See, the vivid the memory of being frozen in that lean-to with those cracks and was horrible. Oh, but so when I went to high school, this is interesting. When I went to high school, the girls wanted to come and stay with me, the girlfriends. Part of the reason they wanted to come because they wanted to be by the boys, John and Pete. Well, I couldn't tell them you can't stay with me because we use a pea pod, you know. And I'm thinking of all kinds of excuses.
You would get me up out of bed to pee on the pea pod.
I didn't remember that.
When you came home from a date. So I wouldn't wet the bed.
You know, when you tell it to me now, you told it to me before, but when you tell me now, I do vaguely remember that. Yes, I do vaguely remember.
Because it was so cold, you got in bed and you didn't move.
Yeah.
Because we had so many covers on us and we were cold.
And besides, that piss was warm and it kept you warm.
That's right.
When you woke up in the morning, it was freezing cold. Mm-hmm. When I talk about the pea pot, now let me tell you about the pot. We all, you understand, it was a slop bucket, about what was it, 10 gallon, 5 gallon? I'm not sure. And when it got too full, your butt got wet. And you think about it, and I remember, I hated that. But you know why? We wouldn't go to the toilet. I know now I am so constipated. Who's going to hear this crazy thing?
All of us.
Because I had to hold it back because when I'd go out to the toilet, I would hear the coyotes howl in the Mog Canyonville, scare the heck out of me. And I remember when Mama was still up, she would walk with me to the toilet. I do remember that. I'm like, oh, when I think back, I think this is crazy. Crazy, crazy. But I think I'll quit talking now. I've talked too much anyway. Good night.
Good night, Ed.